Hello, I'm Scott DuPont with another episode of Finance Your Movie, sharing tips and strategies to help you fund your independent feature, documentary, short film, or web series. Our mission is to empower you to get your money to tell your story. Why this podcast and who should not listen to this? Quick background about my story. Almost 25 years ago, I started out as an actor in Orlando, Florida. Fast forward 5 years later, I quickly became a frustrated actor. I wanted more acting roles and to take more control of my career, hence the reason I got into producing. And I wasn't alone. If you study most successful actors, a lot of writers, and sometimes successful directors, they will often start producing to control or fast track their careers. When I first started producing, it was hard to raise money, and it still is. While I've been a little lucky and I've had some good timing, I also made a lot of mistakes, some very costly. I produced several short films and over a dozen feature film projects. So here's why I did this podcast. I've seen so much pain and frustration with friends graduating film school. So excited to go after doing a few short films or maybe a few music videos that got success. They go out and they try to raise money for their first feature, and most fall flat on their face. Many quit after a few years, and some really talented, gifted people I've known even drop out of the business. I've met hundreds of producers of all ages who have also struggled to raise money for their projects. And most, interesting, they make the same mistakes, including not having their project ready with a killer concept or script and a business plan, not having the right director attached to your project. And if it's you, that's okay, but be honest. Have you at least had success with one or two short films first? Other common mistakes are not talking to the right potential investors and often prejudging potential investors. And there are some legitimate fears of rejection. There's some validity to this. I just see so many people, so many friends of mine who gave up on their dreams, whether it's an aspiring writer, a director who wants the chance to direct his or her passion project, or an aspiring actor like myself 20 plus years ago. I recently raised money for a documentary about raising movie money, and I can't wait to share that with you when it finally comes out. And at the same time, I decided to write a book about the exact detailed steps along the way of how I was actually raising the money for that documentary that talks about raising money for movies. Crazy, right? During that same time, I was researching, studying, and I got to interview some of the most successful producers in the world. Some in Hollywood, many others not, but all who had raised money and produced great projects. I slowly started extracting that information, the secrets, what they were doing. And I extracted that information from the very best. And that's what I want to share with you on this podcast. What works, what doesn't, what to avoid, and the step by step detailed strategies, tips, and secrets that can help fast track you getting your money. Sometimes it's a few simple shifts or a different mindset that can make all the difference. I firmly believe that anyone with the right tools, a strong desire, and work ethic can raise money for their own projects. I'm going to go really, really deep and hopefully keep this podcast very specific and niched into how to raise money for projects. And I'm going to niche it very, very definitively from the $25,000 mark to the $2.5 million range. Two reasons for only covering fundraising and only covering raising money in this specific budget range. Number one, to date, I have not raised larger amounts of money. If you're trying to raise $3 million, $5 million, $7 million, even $10 million for your next indie film, you don't want to listen to me, as I haven't done that and I'd come off as a fraud. The mentors and coaches you want to listen to and learn from are people that have had success, hopefully multiple times, doing exactly what you want to do. And in the slightly higher budgeted arena of films, I'm simply not that guy. Number two, the second reason is almost all filmmakers for their first and second film decide to do projects under the $2 million mark. That's where I'm confident, and the special guests I'll be interviewing, I'm confident that they can also help you the most. And I'm going to do my absolute best to stay on topic and not digress into the actual filmmaking process or budgeting, scheduling, post-production, or distribution. You can learn all of that in film school or on-the-job training, and there are unlimited books, seminars, and programs that teach those very important things. I've been to dozens of film schools around the country, and most teach valuable tips on slashing your budget, how to write a great business plan, how to get film incentives or tax credits from different states or countries. But I've yet to find one single school that has an in-depth course on how to raise the money, how to actually get the cash. It's the one thing they simply don't teach at any film school. Now, one of the reasons I created this podcast is, and I firmly believe this, if there's no money, there's no movie, no documentary, no web series. It's that simple. Finally, I want to be completely transparent and authentic here. I'm not some big Hollywood actor producer driving a Ferrari down from my house up in the Hollywood Hills. I'm just a regular guy who's had some success raising money for feature-length narratives and documentaries, and I've been obsessed with learning so that I can finally share this information with others. Part of being transparent is revealing anything I profit from. Because there are many people in this business, I don't want to say many, but there are a few people in this business you'll meet at film festivals, events, film seminars, and online that haven't done what they're actually talking about. Kind of like the acting teacher who has no real acting credits, or the guy teaching a writing seminar who hasn't actually sold a single script. Now, for lower budgeted projects under the $2.5 million range, I know in my heart I can serve you with real information, no fluff or BS, that can make an impact. I'll be sharing some audio programs, websites, investment coaches, companies, vendors, books, films that I highly recommend, but most I have no financial interest in. Okay? I have no interest. But the reason I'm sharing them and bringing some of these experts into the podcast that I'll be interviewing is I believe and I know the information or services, the people that I introduce you to, I know that the information I share can help you on your fundraising journey. When our documentary is released, I'm going to be promoting it like crazy because I have a small financial interest in it, as do my investors. But most importantly, it's a film I would have killed to have seen 20 years ago. Finally, a disclosure to anyone who should not be listening to this podcast. If you already have a funding source or access to money to fund your project, great. Congratulations. But listening to this, honestly, will be a waste of time. As I mentioned, if you're doing an independent project above $2.5 million, up to $10 million, and there are many independent films done this year in that budget range, I've simply not played in that arena. So I'm simply not the expert to listen to. And there are different legal tools and financial instruments in that budget range. Now, if you wrote a film script or a web series and you want advice on how to pitch the big studios, networks, or major streaming platforms to sell your project that they will hopefully produce, I haven't done that either, so I'm not your coach. Now, one of the advantages of raising your own money, especially in the lower budgeted range, is you get to do your project the way it was written and exactly the way you envisioned it from the beginning. Finally, if you're doing a short film for $5,000 or $10,000 or a micro budget web series for under $25,000, I'm simply not going to focus much time on that. So save your time and reach out to close friends or family and start an online crowdfunding campaign. They oftentimes do work. I'm not saying they're easy, but many times you can get the money that way. I simply don't want to waste anyone's time. Now, we will cover some detailed crowdfunding tips to help you raise $25,000 to $1 million, and I'll interview a few filmmakers who have actually done that successfully. On future podcasts, I truly hope I can share with you valuable information that I'd wish I had when I first started trying to raise money for my projects many years ago. And I wish you all the very best success in finding your money to tell your story. Tune in next week, or for more info, visit financeyourmovie.com. Thank you for listening, and remember, if you have a story to tell the world, never give up on your dream. Copyright Nemours Marketing.